What up, everybody? This is the Dr. Football Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Dennis Teehan. We are recording remote tonight. I am coming from my real live medical office in Dedham, Massachusetts. Justin Fein with me as always, the CEO of Hedge Better at the Hedge Better Studios in Braintree, Mass. Justin, what's going on, man? You're looking sharp, man.
Well, you know what? Just coming from one gig to the next. We're over here at the we call it the Hedge Quarters. It's our little term for it. But left one gig on to the next. Looking forward to getting this thing recorded. I know we got a good episode today. We're gonna do something we haven't done before, I think, in the Dr. Football Podcast.
That's right. We're gonna do our very own mock draft, but we're not gonna do the whole first round because that's just way too boring. So we're just going to do the first 11 or 12 picks because I think that's where all the excitement and the intrigue is going to be anyways.
100%. Yeah. I mean, even just mocking it out, myself, I thought, hey, this is really going to be interesting to see what happens in these, the first half of the first round. And I'm curious to see how you have everything shaken down.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I changed a couple things just based on today. Like I've gone back and forth. When you really try to sit down and write everything down, it actually, it is a little bit of a challenging to kind of figure it out. We'll get into all that. We're going to do the mock draft later. We're going to start with a few takes on a couple things that happened with the Patriots this week. So just get right into that. Let's begin with the kickoff, which is the opening take that we use to set the table for the podcast. And I think there was a couple of big stories this week related to the Patriots, but I think the most interesting one, the most intriguing one was the report coming out about Robert Kraft calling Arthur Blank and telling him to not hire Bill Belichick, or saying you couldn't trust Bill Belichick, and really thwarting Belichick's candidacy in Atlanta. And I have some thoughts about this that I want to begin with. I think it is ridiculous, frankly, because, we know Bill Belichick is the greatest coach that ever lived. We all know that. Or he's a terrific Hall of Fame, Mount Rushmore coach, fine. But he has a dark side, and this is his dark side coming out, which is one of the things is he doesn't like to take responsibility for his own actions and his own situation. And I'm sorry, Bill Belichick, you're 38-49 the last 4 years with one playoff appearance and trending down. Probably the worst drafter in the league over the last 5 or 6 years. Okay. Terrible demeanor, terrible in a press conference, toxic locker room in New England the last few years. It wasn't always like that, but it became like that. Bill Belichick is the person that is responsible for Bill Belichick not getting the job in Atlanta or anywhere else. Because any one of those other 31 teams, if they really wanted Bill Belichick, could have found a way to fire their guy and bring him in. There was talk. Yeah. There was talk. Buffalo, Philadelphia, everyone passed on him. He's the greatest coach who ever lived. We've talked extensively about wondering if his time has come and gone. I can 1,000% see why at 72 years old, no one took a chance on him. And I think to blame Robert Kraft for that, I'm sorry, it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. Robert Kraft is one of a club of 32 owners that communicate with each other. And Robert Kraft could have given Arthur Blank honest feedback about Bill Belichick that was effusive, that was generally positive, but also honest about his experience the last few years. And Arthur Blank may have heard the total package and said, no, you know what? This isn't the guy for us. Totally possible. And I think that is what happened. So I think it's absurd to put this on Robert Kraft. Justin, your thoughts?
I find it very hard to believe that Robert Kraft would go and start bad-mouthing Bill Belichick to other owners in the league, right? Like, people talk, people have relationships. You would think that anything that Kraft is putting on the record to any of these other owners or, front offices in the league would have a way of getting back to Belichick. And Kraft just doesn't strike me as the type of guy who's going to let the greatest, coach walk and then talk crap about him behind his back, right? That just doesn't, it doesn't sit well with me. I have a very hard time seeing that be the case. And I just think Robert Kraft he's shown his character over the years. And I don't think that that's a trait of his. I don't think that's something he would do. In defense, the one thing I will say, about that, and again, I still don't think it's true. I don't think there's any semblance of truth, but I think maybe some of the people hanging on to that rumor are pointing to the fact that, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Dynasty documentary that came out, that was something that the Crafts put in the works, right? Didn't they kind of like fund that and have that kind of produced and whatnot, kind of on their behalf? And I know that portrayed Bill in a pretty negative light. I mean, I know I even saw a statement the other day from Kendrick Bourne saying that he loved Bill and he hated the documentary because it made the way it made Bill look. So, I mean, anything that I think the Crafts wanted to say about Bill, I think it was in the documentary. But I think it's completely unrelated. I don't think that they would have gone in talk crap behind Bill's back to these other owners. So yeah, I think it's just kind of just looking for a headline. Honestly,
it really is, because like I don't know what the people expect Robert Kraft to do. Someone calls you and asks you for an advice on someone that worked for you and now wants to work for them. And aren't you obligated to give honest feedback?
Yeah.
And wouldn't that honest feedback include both positives and negatives? And there have been plenty of negatives to talk about with Bill Belichick over the last 6 years. Malcolm Butler, Matt Patricia, and Joe Judge, the draft. I mean, you can go on and on.
Yeah.
As much as I'm a Belichick guy, defend Belichick. I think he's as much responsible for the dynasty as anyone. But if you're going to give honest feedback about Bill Belichick, you're going to have to say some negative things. And I think that's probably what Kraft, who by all indications is super tight with Arthur Blank, and I think that's what Kraft did. He gave an honest assessment. It may have been 90% positive,
right,
but in that 10% negative, there was enough that Blank probably said, you know what, now that I think about it, this is not the guy for me. Don't you think, Justin, that honestly, like, wouldn't Atlanta be a desirable place if you're Robert Kraft and you're looking at all the potential landing spots for Bill Belichick, and you got that Giants job potentially opening next year? I don't want to see him there if I'm Kraft. You got Buffalo, you got Philadelphia, you got Dallas. I would be happy if I was Robert Kraft to see Belichick ride out the string in Atlanta.
Yeah, I honestly, if you had to handpick a spot, you'd probably pick somewhere in the NFC like that. I think Atlanta would have been a great fit. But to build off of what you just said, it might have been 90% positive, 10% negative. I think the most telling thing was the fact that he let Bill go. I mean, I don't think he had to really say much. The fact that you let the greatest coach of all time walk, I think, was an indictment in itself. And I think from there, Robert Kraft really doesn't have to run his mouth. I think it's just kind of implied that Bill's best days are behind him. So sure, there was, I'm sure some honest analysis and honest feedback from one owner to another. But Arthur Blank's probably sitting there going, hey, Bill's not the head coach of the Patriots anymore for a reason. And I think that's the most telling piece of evidence out there.
And how many jobs were open this year? Wasn't there eight jobs open this year? Yeah. And I don't think Belichick got an interview anywhere except Atlanta.
Right. And I'm trying to remember, the timeline now is a little blurry. I'm trying to remember how many of these jobs were still vacant, when they let Bill go. But a lot of these jobs are filled by first-time head coaches. So,
and if you really wanted the guy, if someone really wanted Belichick, they're going to find a way to bring him in. I mean, no one wanted him. It was, and there's a lot of reasons why I think that makes sense. But I mean, to sit there and I'm sorry, this is the timing of this report, right? Yeah. Belichick signs on at ESPN to do draft coverage in Monday Night Football. And then the next day, Seth Wickersham has this bombshell story about, this is just classic Belichick 101. Planting a leak story, not taking responsibility. It's always someone else. I love Belichick, but I mean, I've seen he has a downside over 25 years. Anyone could see that from afar. And I think this is a great example of that. Like it is not Robert Kraft's fault, Bill, that you don't have a job. It's a lot of things that go into it, but to blame it on Kraft because he might have said an honest assessment to Blank about what you are at this point is absurd.
Yeah, I agree. And who knows who leaked the story? Who knows where that came from? But I totally agree. I think it's absurd. I don't think there's any factual basis, to back that up. to your point earlier, I think if anything did get said, it was said in a very candid fashion, just like you said, giving a true, honest evaluation as a reference. But I can't imagine Bill Belichick sitting there and talking trash about, Robert Kraft sitting there and talking trash about Bill Belichick, or flat out telling Arthur Blank not to hire him. Like, you know what I mean? I can never picture that being the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more little subtake on this thing that this tells me when you read between the lines on this is that Belichick does want to coach again, because I think he probably was the source of this league, and he's probably pissed about what happened. And one of the real treats about this NFL season coming up is going to be that Bill Belichick, in the role of executioner, every time a coach gets on the hot seat, Belichick's name is going to come up, and it is going to be great theater to see where he ultimately ends up, and just to watch the speculation. If Philadelphia's 4-3 or Buffalo's 5-4, at some point, and things aren't going well for some of these teams. Dallas, they hit another cold streak this year. Belichick is just going to be hovering over these guys with the long sword, just waiting to pounce. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. You already know the headlines they're already written, queued, ready to go. The second a team starts off 1-3, 0-4, or somebody's in the hot seat, like, his name's going to be mentioned.
The fans, the sports radio callers in any market, it's going to be something that plays out all season long, and it's going to be super entertaining. My feelings. I hope he retires, but it'll be entertaining to watch. All right, let's move on, Justin. We're going to talk about Elliot Wolf and some of his comments and reading between the lines on some of those. What did you make of what Elliot Wolf said this week? I mean, I thought a couple of the noteworthy things. Number one is saying the Patriots are open for business. And, it's the lying season, so you never know what someone really is going to do this time of year. But I do think that genuinely, after listening to Elliot Wolf's comments, I really believe a trade is realistic for the Patriots tomorrow. Like, I don't think it's just a remote thing. Like, I think there is a real chance that they take a bag of money and move back in the draft, a bag of draft capital and move back in the draft, I should say.
They totally could. I mean, there's other rumors that came out the other day that they had called and inquired about AJ Brown, right? Like, I mean, that's, if you just go back to the rumors, and obviously nothing's manifested itself, but you now have the Patriots linked to Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, T. Higgins. Like, clearly, there's some stuff going on behind the scenes here that the Patriots are trying to do in order to, kind of make some immediate moves right now to help them win. I mean, they went out, and we talked about this a few weeks ago. They went out and re-signed a lot of the core of that team that was kind of still, wavering in terms of, free agency, looking for that next contract, potentially on the trade block. So, I mean, everything that they're kind of doing tells me that this is a team that, like, actually likes themselves a little bit more than some of their fans do. And, they're looking to make a move that will help kind of put them in the contention of maybe not competing for a Super Bowl, but at least competing and having a viable season. Like, I definitely wouldn't be shocked to see the Patriots do something tomorrow night. And you know what? Who knows? This could be a result of them not being in love with any of the quarterbacks. It could be a result of them thinking, hey, like, we got a good core. Like, let's continue to build that core. We don't need to go for the home run right now. Like, there's a lot of factors, but everything that I've kind of seen tells me that this is a team that doesn't think this is a 3, 4, 5 year rebuild. This is a team that thinks they can do it in a year or two and get themselves back into playoff contention.
Yeah, well, that actually ties into one of the other comments that Elliot Wolf said that I was going to bring up that really jumped off the paper at me, which is his comment. Did you hear about how he said that he hears people say that would the quarterback be supported, and he pushes back on that he feels like that he can draft the young quarterback and that player would be supported. And he actually went through and named, hey, we have NFL offensive linemen. We have NFL wide receivers. We have NFL running backs and NFL tight end. And this is what Elliot Wolf said.
Yeah. I
thought that was candid. But to your point, like, we've talked about this multiple times on the podcast, like, they don't believe they're that bad of a team as they looked last year. And the more I thought about it, and I've been thinking about this a little, I think they have holes, but I think that Wolf, he might not be as wrong as initially I thought he was. Because, like, their offensive line, yeah, they got a big hole at left tackle, but every team in the league, I mean, how many of these teams have 5 great linemen right now? Of course, left tackle might be the most important position, but maybe it's not as bad a situation on the line as it seems. I don't know. Do you feel like they would be able to support a young quarterback like Elliott Wolf apparently does?
Well, I think, look, this was a team that went out and they re-signed guys like Michael Onwenu, right? They, their offensive line isn't great, but it's not awful either. They went out and re-signed Hunter Henry. And you know what? If you were to bring in a Justin Jefferson, an AJ Brown, a T Higgins, all of a sudden the trio of Kendrick Bourne, Pop Douglas, and Juju Smith-Schuster doesn't sound so bad as like the second, third, and fourth options. If you were to add a stud to the top of that, receiving core. So like, I look at them and I kind of agree. And to build on that, we talked about the fact that they got a potential top 5 defense behind them. I mean, this really is a team that's potentially 1 or 2 pieces away from, being able to put it all together. Obviously, the quarterback play is a huge component of their success. But if you're just talking about being able to bring in a quarterback and have him be supported, I mean, hey, he's a receiver and a lineman away from having a really, really solid roster behind him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the more I think about it too, and I'm like, if you're asking me like what their biggest need is besides quarterback right now, I'd say it probably is wide receiver. But like, to your point, you put Pop Douglas with a good quarterback, maybe he's catching 60 or 70 passes instead of 30 or 40.
Yep.
And maybe you get Juju Smith-Schuster healthy this year because he was never healthy last year.
Right.
Maybe Kendrick Bourne is healthy. I like Kendrick Bourne. I think Kendrick Bourne was super underrated. I think Kendrick Bourne could do more in a better offense with a better quarterback.
Yep.
So maybe the picture isn't quite as dire as we all kind of have been saying it is for like the last year. But I thought Elliott Wolf's comments may make you wonder, hey, you know what? Maybe he's right. Maybe it isn't so bad.
Well, look, I mean, we've said this before in the show, but how many times last year did we say with the roster as is, if we just had competent quarterback play, this was a team that could have been competing for a wild card spot, right? So like, if you take that and then kind of extrapolate out, fast forward to this year, given everything they've done, I don't think it's crazy at all to turn around and say that this team isn't as bad as some people think that they are. And maybe they are, a few less pieces away than people anticipated.
What did you think about him saying that age is not a factor in the quarterback decision? I thought that was interesting. I mean, it really kind of opens the door to Michael Penix. One of the biggest knocks on him is I think he's 24. I don't see why that would matter, because if you're going to have the guy for the next 13, 14 years, or that's the goal, you draft the right guy. What difference does it make if he's 22, 23, or 24? If he's the right guy, you're going to get plenty of use out of him. If you draft the wrong guy, like Zach Wilson, I think was 20 or 21, and he sucks. He just got traded today.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was a accurate statement from Elliott Wolf. Like the age of the quarterback, if a guy can play, he can play. Who cares how old he is?
Exactly. And I mean, maybe I'm reading a little too much into it, but it also tells me like, hey, if they were to do what you suggested could potentially be an option earlier, which is, hey, take a bag of draft capital and move down in the draft. I mean, that opens them up to, potentially bringing in like a veteran or somebody next year. Like maybe he's kind of alluding to the fact that, look, like we need to upgrade our quarterback, but that could happen in multiple ways. That could happen via trade, via free agency next year, via the draft this year or next year. Like, I think, he's alluding to the fact that if we build a championship caliber roster around the quarterback, then it really does give us options in terms of how we want to proceed with that.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about 2 more quick things. Then we're going to get right to the mock draft.
Yeah.
No messing around. So number one is there was a report last week kind of took the sporting world by storm, and I'm not sure if it has any merit to it, but it's kind of fun to play Fantasy Island. It was by Tom Brady, who was on some podcast. I don't even remember the name. Some barber that does a podcast and cuts your hair and interviews a person.
Yep.
which is a great idea. Why didn't we think of that? No, I'm just kidding. but I don't know how to cut hair. But he did say that, he was potentially considering coming back to play. He wouldn't necessarily turn down the call if somebody called him. And he mentioned New England Patriots as one of the teams that he would, think about taking a call from. How do you handle that if you're the Patriots? Because I'll tell you right now, if it's me and I heard that, if I was Robert Kraft, I'd have my phone out within like 30 minutes of the end of that podcast, seeing if he was serious. I would take Brady back for 1 year in a second. Give me the Tom Brady reunion tour, right the wrong, finish his career in New England the way it always should have been, even if they're not that good, even if he's not that good. I would love every second of it. I'd take him back here in a second, no questions asked, Justin.
Yeah, I would too. And the big thing that you have going for you this time around is the fact that everything is kind of on the table. You understand what his role would be here, right? I mean, look, obviously there was a controversy a few years ago. Like, was it the time to let Brady go? I mean, obviously he put that rumor to bed, but things were a lot more up in the air when he left a few years ago, right? I mean, if he were to come back now, you know exactly what it would be. It would be 1 year, max 2, but even that second year is 90% highly unlikely, right? You're basically getting him as a bridge quarterback for 1 year. You got Jacoby Brissett is your bridge quarterback. I'd take Tom Brady over my bridge quarterback for a year than the Jacoby Brissett, right?
Absolutely.
So you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's the role and expectation is clearly defined. And I think with that in mind, why wouldn't you take a flyer on Brady for a year, bring him back?
Even with this team around him and all the questions about this offensive roster, they would win 10 or 11 games with Tom Brady, right, as their quarterback.
Oh, yeah, especially if they, follow through on some of the rumors and brought in like a true number one receiver. Like, I mean, if you gave Brady, even the offense they have now behind this defense with Tom Brady at the helm, I think, like you said, is a playoff team. So yeah, 100%.
And could you think of a better way to like ease in your young coach who doesn't have a lot of experience, right? And who is going to have a learning process of his own this year? What better way to get him through that process than like a golden ticket, an automatic pass to 10 or 11 wins? Because even a diminished Tom Brady is still going to get you, to that point, to that 10 or 11 win season. What a great way to start Mayo's career. I think that would be.
Yeah, it would be phenomenal. He would, you instantly, I think, start to relax your fears about his inexperience, right? Because you know that, hey, as inexperienced as he is, he's got the most experienced, greatest of all time guy out there running point for his offense.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think it'd be phenomenal. I think it'd be great for the league. It would be great for the Patriots. It would be great for the fans. And I think it would be kind of like his, like a very Jordan-esque move, right? Like him, like Jordan coming back for the Wizards, right? It'd kind of be something like that, like a little pop out of retirement, and have himself a little farewell tour. I would be ecstatic.
And just knowing Brady's like psyche and everything, like I don't think it's that unrealistic, to be honest with you, because I just feel like this is a guy that thrives on challenges. This would be another huge challenge for him. And I think that Brady does have like a very special, New England has a special spot in Brady's heart because of everything he accomplished here. And I do think that Brady feels not good about the way things ended.
Yeah.
And now that Belichick is gone, this does open the door for him to come in and kind of right a situation that maybe he didn't feel that great about. I don't think Brady necessarily ever wanted to leave New England. I just think that it got so bad with Belichick and it had to end. And he had to move on. We've talked about this 1,000 times, but what a way it would be to sort of make up for that and sort of, and sort of, I don't know, make that ghost go away. There would be no better way than to come back for one more year. I mean, who knows? It's probably not going to happen, but I would absolutely be calling if I was Robert Kraft.
Oh, I'd be all over it. All over it.
And then one last one, Justin. Little bit of news today. Matt Slater hired as Gerard Mayo's right-hand man. I want to get your thoughts on that move before we start our mock drafts. I will tell you my take on this. Very simple. I love it because it's all hunky-dory and well and good to come in and do positive vibes only, and we're building bridges and making connections and taking down walls. And that's all great in April and May and June. But when we start losing games in September and October, and we go through the process of developing a young team, bringing in new talent, new coaches, putting everything together, there are going to be rough patches this year, I think, for sure, for this team at some point. And keeping buy-in in that locker room is going to be one of Mayo's biggest challenges this year because he's a rookie head coach with no experience and no real resume to fall back on. I think it's very possible he could end up getting questioned or run into a little bit of mutiny among some of his guys at some point this year. Having a guy like Matt Slater on his side to keep the locker room clear of that as much as possible, I think it's a great hire.
It's a great hire for all the reasons you just said, and to add two more to the mix. We talk about the Patriot way and the culture in that locker room, right? And what a great way to help not only keep that Patriot way intact, but keep the culture of the team solid, bringing in a guy like him, a captain, right? And what has been one of our biggest complaints about this Patriots team the last couple of years? The fact that their special teams, completely, I don't want to say completely, but eroded to the point where it actually kind of became a liability, right? Yeah. And so, having somebody like that, considered one of the greatest special teams players of all time, having a mind like his to kind of help on the back end of things, I think it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's sort of an ancillary benefit of it too, but I think the locker room stuff just outweighs that.
For sure.
I think, you brought this up a couple of weeks ago, and it's such a great point. But when you really extrapolate how this is going to go this year, I mean, Mayo is really going to be challenged, and he will be in a place where if they don't win a lot of games, fast, he's going to be challenged in his own locker room.
Yeah.
And that's why you need guys like Slater. That's why you need veterans like Kyle Duggar and Michael Onwenu and some of these other guys that they brought back to kind of keep the culture positive, because I really think this will be a challenging year, most likely for them.
Yeah. 100%. Definitely need a guy like that. And hey, they're former teammates too. You know what I mean? So it's like the guys, Slater's coming in speaking from experience. So I love it.
Right.
I do.
He's going to have a lot of credibility in that locker room with a lot of those younger guys, because if only out of respect for the fact that who he was while he was a player.
Yeah. 100%.
All right. Awesome. Any other thoughts on anything going on, Carly, or are you ready to begin the first official Dr. Football mock draft?
Ready to go. Very curious to see what you got in store, but right. I got a couple things too. So let's get after it.
I'm just warning everyone. We're only doing the first 11 or 12 picks, because we don't need to pick 18 to fill it out. We don't care about that. No one in Patriots fans. I mean, it's impossible to predict, and not to say the first 10 picks are possible, because that's hard enough. But we're not even going down that road. I feel like the first 10 or 11 is all we really want to do. All right, we're going to start with the Bears. We'll just go pick by pick, and I'll tell you who I'm taking. You can tell me yours. It's the lying season. Everyone lies about everything this year, but actions sometimes do tell the truth. And the fact that nobody has brought in Caleb Williams in for a visit besides the Chicago Bears, not Washington, not New England, not Minnesota, not Seattle. No one has brought him in. I think he's minus 20,000 on DraftKings right now to go first. Yeah. So there is not going to be any surprise here. There is no doubt about it. Caleb Williams is going to be the first pick. It is an absolute mortal lock. There's no way I see any other scenario playing out.
100%. Totally agree. That was super easy. I was able to just skip right to number 2 when we started mocking. I mean, I didn't even have to think twice about that. Still not saying I love the guy. Still not saying I'm bought in on the hype. But I think for the purposes of mock drafting, it is, sure as death and taxes. Caleb Williams going number 1 of the Bears.
What do you think about him as a fit in Chicago? I mean, he lands in a great spot. If you think of all the places a number 1 quarterback could end up, there's talent on that team with TJ Moore, potentially add another weapon with the number 9 pick. The tight end Clement is good.
They brought in Keenan Allen.
Right? Yeah. Forgot about that. He's going to a terrific place where he can, if he's any kind of quarterback, he's going to be able to have success right from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a good landing spot for him. The one thing again is just kind of the fact that look, he's going to have a lot of pressure, right? Like with that, it's a give and take, right? Like he's not going to a barren, desolate roster where he's expected to have like a multi-year rebuild ahead of him. Like the Chicago Bears are expecting that they can bring Caleb Williams in and instantly be a 7, 8, 9 win team, right? So like he has a lot
of the Texans last year.
Exactly.
Perfect
So
example.
Exactly. So yes, he's landing in a great spot, but with that great spot comes a lot of pressure.
And I think too, like just like the Bears, I would still consider them to be a flagship franchise of the league.
Yeah.
And they have great fans. They come from a big market, sort of a real pillar of the league in one of the best football markets in America. They've never had a franchise quarterback in my entire life. I mean, really, ever. So I think for them to have a franchise big name quarterback, if nothing else, this is all about entertainment. This is going to be an entertaining pair. The Chicago and Caleb, it's going to be an entertaining marriage.
Yep.
Whether he fails or whether he succeeds, it's going to be very interesting to watch. So I think it's a great marriage.
Yeah.
Good for the league.
Definitely.
All right. Number 2 pick, Commanders. This is where I think things start to get interesting for me, Justin, because I'll be honest, I've kind of felt the whole time like the Commanders were going to take Drake May. I don't know why. I just feel like a hunch on that, despite all the buzz around it. I felt like, I don't know. May was always the second best guy after Williams. I just felt like when all the dust settled, Daniels has had this meteoric rise, but I felt like they were going to take May. But I changed my pick today, and I'm going to tell you why, and it ties in a lot to what I'm seeing come out of Foxborough right now. There's a couple tells this week from New England about how they feel the draft is going to shake down, Justin. And I'm just going to try and be quick and go through these because these kind of tie in a lot to what we're doing. So number 1 is Elliot Wolf's comments, right? I thought Elliot Wolf saying what he said about the open for business thing, I thought that really sets the stage for a trade. There's been a ton of buzz on how the Patriots love Daniels, but they don't think he's going to be there, right? They don't really seem sold on McCarthy or May. There's been reporting that both these guys the building is split on how the Pats feel about McCarthy and May. Diana Rossini sends out a tweet today saying the Patriots are hearing trade offers for the number 3 pick. And then Michael Penix, this is the biggest tell of all, comes and visits in Foxborough. To me, that is the biggest clue because the Patriots ignored Michael Penix for the longest time. They did not go to his pro day. He was not even on their radar. And then all of a sudden he comes in for a pre-draft visit a week and a half before the draft. Huge clue. So to me, you add that all up, and I think the Patriots know that even though they love Jaden Daniels, he is not going to be there at number 3 because the Commanders are going to take him. And that is my pick for the number 2 pick, Justin. I think Daniels goes second.
Yep, and so far we're 2 for 2. I got Jaden Daniels in there with the Commanders as well. I totally agree. I think he's had this meteoric rise. We saw very early on the Commanders kind of make that shift from Drake May towards Jaden Daniels. I know they've gone back and forth. I know they've been linked with Daniels. They've been linked with JJ McCarthy. They've been linked with May. But you know what? I agree completely. I think Jaden Daniels lands in Washington. I think that's kind of an opportunity that the Commanders can't really afford to pass up. And yeah, I got Jaden Daniels going number 2 overall.
Have you been turned off at all by some of the rhetoric coming from Jaden Daniels' camp about not wanting to play in the cold, not liking the way the Commanders interviewed him with the other quarterbacks? Is that of any effect at all on what happens in the number 2 pick?
I mean, you know what? Unfortunately, I think when you're in this situation as the Commanders are, and you're desperate in terms of finding a franchise quarterback, you're desperate in terms of trying to be a relevant franchise, and you got someone like Jaden Daniels who has that kind of prototype of, you've seen some of the former MVPs, like, the Lamar Jacksons of the league. Like, he is that new prototypical quarterback that we're seeing kind of make way in the NFL, right? Less of like a, traditional pocket passer and more of that mobile athlete that can do a little bit of everything. And everybody kind of wants that next guy who fits that mold. So, personally to me, that rhetoric would worry me, but I just kind of feel like that's the way the league, and not only just the league, but the way sports are shifting in general. And actually, to go back real quick to Brady's podcast that he was on, he said the biggest issue right now with these young kids is everything is about them. It's about me, not us. It's about their brand. It's about their ego. It's about their preferences. So unfortunately, I think, as we move into the future, this type of rhetoric from guys like Jaden Daniels, from guys like Caleb Williams, it's going to start to become the norm, unfortunately. Yeah. And I hate to say that, but I think it's I think it's just what we're seeing, and I think Washington is going to look past it and grab him at number 2.
I agree. I mean, Washington, they have all the leverage here. They can take him, and I think that they will take him with that number 2 pick, and he's going to have to play for them, whether it's his ideal landing spot or not. I think probably. You've heard some reporting. Daniels probably wants to go to Las Vegas because his former coach is there. Yeah. 2 of his former coaches are there, both Antonio Pierce and Marvin Lewis. And I'm sure he would like to go there, but I don't think that is a realistic landing spot for him. I don't think that's likely to happen, barring a huge surprise. And honestly, Jaden Daniels should be happy to go to Washington. It's another great landing spot for a team that's number 2 in the draft. They have great receivers, good talent on offense, and it's a flagship franchise in a big market. I think it's a great place for a young quarterback to go.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I never understand the whole playing in the cold, because look, this is the NFL. You're going to have to travel. You're going to have to win games in December and January. It doesn't matter where you go. You're going to have to be able to play in the cold. So I've never really understood that.
It's Green Bay either. I mean, Washington's a little cold, but it's not. I mean, we're not talking about like Chicago or Green Bay or something like that. It's Washington. All right, Justin. So that brings us to the Patriots. I'll let you go first on this one. What's your call? Pats are on the board. We got Williams and Daniels off the board.
So, I have them here taking Drake May just because I think that's the perceived best quarterback available, and I think that's the odds-on favorite in terms of what they're going to do. Is they're going to take the best quarterback available? But I would not be shocked at all if they traded out of this pick and moved back down either a couple spots or back down later into the first round. Would it shock me at all? It also wouldn't shock me at all if they don't love Drake May. I mean, I don't love Drake May. But they've seen someone, in their own division, a la Josh Allen, with a similar build, kind of a similar raw skill set, kind of torched them for the last couple of years. And maybe they say, hey, this is our chance to go get that big athlete, mold him into, a franchise quarterback and see what we can do. I got them there just because I think they're either going to take a quarterback or trade out. And as of this point, there's nothing solid confirming that they're going to trade. So I have them here taking Drake May.
Okay. See, I like Drake May, and I'm no quarterback guru, but I like him. I think he's a prototypical passer. I think he seems like he has the right personality or makeup for it. But what I'm hearing and what I'm picking up from a lot of the reporting the last couple of weeks is the Patriots aren't sold on Drake May.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to be consistent, and I've been consistent about this the whole time, which is, if you love a quarterback, you have to take them at 3. If you believe they're the guy, there is no draft trade offer in the world that is worth passing up on the next Josh Allen, the next Patrick Mahomes for. And the problem is, it doesn't feel like the Patriots really, or as an organization, believe that Drake May is that kind of quarterback.
Yep.
And I think that they may feel similarly about Drake May as they do about J.J. McCarthy or even Michael Penix. And for that reason, I think they are going to trade back. I would say that Minnesota is probably the most likely candidate because they have 2 first-round picks this year, and they have Justin Jefferson. And I'm sorry, the trade offer begins with 3 high draft picks and a Pro Bowl level player. That's what it would take, I think, for the Patriots to pass on Drake May. And I think that the Vikings love Drake May. Josh McCown, who's their quarterbacks coach, has a personal relationship with May's family and was a previous coach of May. I think the Vikings value Drake May more than the Patriots do. And I think the Vikings will move up into this spot, select Drake May, and the Patriots will move back to 11.
Yeah, and you know what? If you told me as a Patriots fan, hey, we could come out of this draft with 2 or 3 high-level draft picks and Justin Jefferson, I'm okay with that. I really am, especially because you know me. I've said since day one, I don't love any of the quarterbacks in this draft class. So if you told me you could flip that pick, grab 2 later first-round picks to shore up the core of this team, and then bring in arguably the best receiver in the league, which we've said is their biggest need other than quarterback right now. Yeah, I'm about it.
I'm okay with it on one condition, and that is they got to draft either J.J. McCarthy or Michael Penix at some point in this draft. And both those guys, I think, are going to go way higher than people think. And I'm basing that just on the recent trend, because you look at the last few years. I mean, if Mac Jones goes at 15, Anthony Richardson goes at 4, teams like a quarterback, they're drafting, they're moving up, and they're getting these guys. So if you fall back to 11, you can't assume that either McCarthy or Penix is gonna be there at 11. It's a gamble, and that's what I hate about it. It's a gamble, but rationally, obviously, if you can get Justin Jefferson and 3 high draft picks to fill some needs on this roster, I mean, that's a steal. That's a yield.
Yeah.
And you have to think about it, but you have to come away with a quarterback somewhere. Otherwise, I feel like it's going to be a lost year. So that's what I don't like about it. But if you're asking me reading the tea leaves, what do I think they're going to do? That's what I think they're going to do. And I'll just say one more thing before we move on to number 4. And that is, the Michael Penix visit, I just said it, but I just think it's the biggest talent. I think it's so weird that they all of a sudden had him coming for a visit. I think it says a lot about it. And I'll tell you what, Justin, I love Michael Penix. Yeah. I don't know why we said it last week. I don't know why he isn't projected to go higher. So, hey, if you can walk away with Penix and those guys, I'm all for it. But it's a gamble for sure. Definitely
a gamble.
All right, let's move on to number 4, Justin. I'll make this one. They have a established quarterback, and I think that after those first 3 guys go 1, 2, 3, I'm sure there's going to be someone that loves J.J. McCarthy, someone that loves Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, that would just be dying to move up to that Arizona spot. But if I'm the Arizona Cardinals and I can get Marvin Harrison, arguably the best player in this draft, at number 4, and pair him up with my quarterback, who I think is a pretty good quarterback in Kyler Murray, there's no way I'm passing that up. I think the Cardinals will take Marvin Harrison. I don't think they'll trade out of this spot.
I agree too. Marvin Harrison Jr. being talked about as, potentially a generational talent. I like Kyler Murray. It's recency bias, right? I mean, everyone's kind of, hopping off the train a little bit after he tore his leg up, but I think, he comes back this year fully healthy. I'm expecting to see some good things out of Kyler Murray. I think, he'd be a great addition to that offense. And this is a team that's clearly rebuilding, looking for foundational pieces. I think a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., you're going to get 5 to 10 years of just solid play out of him. Super reliable.
I mean, the way the NFL is now, at any point, I think Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison will be like a dynamic combo.
Yeah.
But certainly the way the league is now, like that's an explosive combo that I think would carry more value and weight given the way the league is now and the passing game being so heavily emphasized than it would have even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So I just think you get a dynamic combo where you can put a receiver like Marvin Harrison and an explosive quarterback like Kyler Murray together. And I think you're going to win a lot of games. I think that's a great combination. Too good to pass up.
Right. And, even to just simplify it a little bit more, I think if you're not a team looking for a quarterback, I think he's clear cut the best player in the draft.
Yeah.
So I think it makes the decision almost pretty easy. If you got a quarterback that you're happy with, which I think they do, I think the pick almost makes itself at that point.
Absolutely agree with that. And I don't think they'll trade. Okay, let's move on to the Chargers at number 5. You want to make this one?
Yeah. So actually, so I have, again, this is kind of all dependent on how the first couple of picks go, but assuming that it's three quarterbacks running off the board, right? And Jaden and Drake go some combination of 2 and 3 to the Commanders and Patriots, I think we start to see the panic right after that little runoff on quarterback. And this is where I had the Vikings trading up with the Chargers and moving back. So I had the Vikings trading up here and taking JJ McCarthy, who they've been linked to. And I think I think if, like I said, if everything kind of shapes up the way that we think it will, with 3 quarterbacks going off the board first, you get the Chargers sitting there with Justin Herbert, and I think they'd be fools not to try to trade out and get some value for that. And the Vikings, in all likelihood, if they're not doing it at 3, then I think they do it at 5.
Yeah, I like that call. I think Minnesota would be a terrific landing spot for McCarthy, because the talent on that team, it would be an easy transition in for him. He's a Midwestern kid, going to play now for a Midwestern pro team, surrounded by talent. Some of his intangibles, I think, I think he would have success just based on his intangibles and the talent around him alone, while he learned how to play the position at NFL level. So that would be a great landing spot for McCarthy.
Yeah, I think so. So that's what I got. I got McCarthy going to Minnesota. Quick ride over the pond from Michigan, and I think that would be a good spot for him, like you said.
Absolutely. I got the Chargers. See, I see Harbaugh as an old school football guy.
Yeah,
and I don't think he's quite as I think he's going to build that team in a traditional way, and I think that taking Joe Alt, who, if Marvin Harrison isn't the best overall player in this draft, then it probably is Joe Alt. Mm-hmm. And I think grabbing him at 5 and finally getting like a solid protection to protect Justin Herbert, because as much as you want to surround a player like Justin Herbert with receivers, and I went back and forth on this pick about whether he would take Malik Neighbors here or not, because the prospect of Herbert with Neighbors is, again, an explosive combination.
Yep.
But I just think that, Harbaugh, the way I think he'll build that team is he's going to value that tackle, get that franchise tackle, plug him in there for the next decade, and protect Justin Herbert's blind side, and see if that can help Herbert take those next steps that we're always talking about. So I got them taking Joe Alt there.
Yeah, no, I don't hate that at all. And, when I was mocking out the Chargers, I kind of went back and forth in terms of saying, like, look, this team is either going to take kind of honestly exactly what you were just saying. Are they either going to bring somebody in to protect that quarterback? And we'll get to them, when I got them later on in the draft. But I mean, I just thought this was a team that I said, hey, they just got rid of Mike Williams. They just got rid of Keenan Allen. They're going to need somebody for that young quarterback. So
yeah, they are going to need receivers. And they drafted the guy from TCU, Quentin Johnson last year, but he was not very good.
Very underwhelming,
Very underwhelming this year. Yeah. Okay, I'll make the next pick. That's the Giants pick. In my draft, different from your draft, I still have JJ McCarthy on the board. To me, this pick is a referendum on Daniel Jones in my book, because if you have a quarterback available, you also have Malik Neighbors available. You plug in Malik Neighbors to that Giants office. That's one of the things they haven't had at any point in Daniel Jones' career, is that explosive, true number one receiver.
Yep.
Some scouts like Neighbors better than Marvin Harrison. I know that's a little, against the grain, but there are mocks where he's gone ahead of Harrison. I've seen it. You got a chance to get a player like that if you're the Giants right there. That's hard to pass up on. But I have the Giants taking JJ McCarthy at 6, because I think if they can get out of Daniel Jones, bring in a rookie quarterback to be the next person, I can't believe that they truly believe in Daniel Jones anymore. Yeah. And I feel like if they get the opportunity to take a quarterback, one of those top 4 guys, they're going to take their chances.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point too, if you bring in JJ McCarthy, you also have the option. I mean, you got Daniel Jones in a contract. It gives you the option to sit McCarthy for a bit, right? And,
that's right.
And kind of let him.
Bridge guy.
Right. Exactly. So.
Bridge guy.
Yep. So I don't hate that at all. I mean, in my draft, I had obviously McCarthy going the pick before that. So I got the Giants taking Malik Neighbors. The Giants, another one of those franchises where it just seems like the last couple of years they've wasted a lot of high draft capital in the first or I don't know about the first, but at least the second and third round on receivers, right? And it's one of those situations where I look at that receiving room and they have a bunch of number twos, right? Like they got a bunch of number twos, number threes, but they really don't have a solidified number one. And if you're going to expect anything out of Daniel Jones or whatever quarterback you bring in, you're going to need a number one guy for him. So I got them taking Malik Neighbors.
If you believe in Daniel Jones at all, then you would be crazy to pass up on Malik Neighbors.
Right.
Because if you give this guy the number one receiver he's never, ever had, then you're golden. You're golden. Now you're finally supporting the quarterback. I don't believe in Daniel Jones, and I don't think the Giants really believe in him either. And I think that's why they'll pick the quarterback. But Neighbors is a real possibility for them there, and it would fill a huge need that team has not had in a long time. All right, you can make 7 pick the Titans.
So in my draft, I still have Joe Alt available. And if he is available, I think that's where he would go. I got the Titans taking Joe Alt. This is a team that's clearly committed to winning now. They completely revamped that offense. In the last 2 years, you got D-Hop, you got Calvin Ridley. They just brought in Tony Pollard. We saw some good, some potential out of Will Levis last year, but that was a team that had a really, piss poor offensive line. Definitely need to shore that up for your young quarterback. And they clearly have a commitment to offense right now. So I got them taking Joe Alt.
That's a good pick. I thought about, I think he's a great fit there. I have them taking Malik Neighbors for many of the same reasons, which is I think they want to give Will Levis a chance to be successful. I think they believe in Levis. I think they want to use this pick to support him. There are going to, we haven't had a defensive, either one of us had a defensive player taking it?
No.
So, right. So if you're the Titans, you can draft Dallas Turner or Teehan Arnold. You could potentially take the best defensive player in the draft at number 7.
Yeah.
But I just think that where that franchise is right now, where their holes are right now, I think they will go tackle. If Alt is there, they'll take him. If not, Neighbors, they'll take him. Either way, supporting the young quarterback is, I think, what the Titans are going to do with that 7th pick. All right. For Atlanta, I have the cornerback Teehan Arnold from Alabama. Again, arguably the best defensive player in the draft. Going to a team that is actually loaded with skill position talent, brought in Kirk Cousins as a quarterback, but let's face it, they don't have anything on defense. Their defense sucks. They're probably not a very well-built team. They just hired Raheem Morris, who actually is a heck of a defensive coach, and I'm sure he's going to want to try and make them better defense. I think that's the path that team taking a next step is getting a better defense. So I have them going Teehan Arnold at number 8.
Yeah, I got them going defense as well. And, I was going back and forth at what level of defense they were going to take. The only reason I decided to go with Dallas Turner and the edge is, just because I know they have, AJ Terrell and Jesse Bates in that secondary. That secondary wasn't awful last year, but that defense needs help completely. And so I figured, all right, they had one of the worst front sevens in the league. I think they ranked either dead last or near the bottom in terms of the QB pressures and sacks. So I got them taking Dallas Turner off the edge, but same type of mentality here in terms of my thinking is they need some help in that defense. I
think they go defense one way or the other in Atlanta. Now, and next pick is the Bears. You can make this pick. I think it's an intriguing spot.
I think it's super intriguing. I actually have them taking someone on defense. I have them giving Montez Sweat a little bit of help on that defensive line in taking Jashawn Newton out of Illinois. They're calling him potentially the next Aaron Donald. They say this kid is super, super talented on the interior. And I think the Chicago Bears could definitely use it. So I got them taking Jashawn Newton.
I like that call. I have them going defense. I had them going Dallas Turner. Same logic. Bring in some defensive help. I feel like with trading for DJ Moore and then signing Keenan Allen, I don't think they'll take Rome Odunze there. It would be interesting to see if they did, because that would be a dynamic offense with 3 great receivers around the young quarterback. I think that's going to be very tempting for the Bears to pass on Rome Odunze, but I think they will. I think they'll go defense there for sure. I have Dallas Turner, a little bit different, but same kind of idea. That brings us to Brock Bowers, the Jets, the 10th pick. That's my choice. I think that, excuse me, I just think with Aaron Rodgers, this is like a marriage made in heaven. And I think Rodgers will struggle at times this year. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think that bringing in a player like Bowers is in Rodgers will still have some skills. I think it's a great matchup.
Yeah, and I agree. And even though that's not who I wound up picking, I was going back and forth between two guys in my head. Brock Bowers was one of them. Ultimately, I gave the slight nod to Olam. I don't want to mispronounce his name here.
The tackle from Penn State.
Olamayiwa Fashanu.
Yep.
I just figured, I know they brought in Tyron Smith, but I mean, you look at what happened last year. Tyron Smith has had his injury problems. He's versatile. He can move around in that line. I figured they just got to give Aaron as much protection as possible. So for me, it was either Fashanu or Bowers. Flip a coin. I went Fashanu just because you really got to protect Rodgers back there. But yeah, I could see that going either way.
I mean, I don't love Bowers as a player, for the record, because he's really small. He's only like 6'1.5" or something like that. And I'm like, I know he was super productive, super quick, fine. Is that really going to translate on the pro level to that kind of production in a guy that undersized? I don't feel like we've seen a lot of these like super undersized tight ends really make that huge impact that I think would justify him being taken this high in the draft, maybe later in the first round. But I think that it's going to be. I think someone will take him that high.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's funny because I'd been hearing a lot about him being a potential top 5, potential top 10 pick, and when I was doing my mock, I didn't have a place in the top 10 for him. So I. Not sure where he's going to fall. I kind of had the same concerns as you where, I looked at this guy and the way they were talking about him, I expected him to be like 6'5", 6'6",
right.
like
the total package.
Exactly. Like a big monster. Not a big guy. I mean, definitely, he's probably going to be a good route runner and, have some more speed than your traditional tight end. But, even just the upgrade from college football to the NFL, the size, the physicality, that's a huge, huge leap. So you know what? If he doesn't have that size, I'm not sure if he's going to be as effective at the next level. So I had him falling outside of the top 10 too.
I'll put it this way, Justin. If I was taking a tight end with a top 10 pick in the draft, I would want him to be the total package.
Right.
And I don't see a guy this undersized as possibly being the total package.
Agreed.
All right. And that brings me to pick 11, which for me is going to be the Patriots' first pick. I think that this will be where the Patriots pick because of the trade with Minnesota. And I think they don't chance it. I think they take Michael Penix here with the 11 pick, and then they look to fill some of the other needs on their roster with the 23rd pick and perhaps some of the other draft assets that they pick up and perhaps some of the other player assets they'll pick up in the trade. But I think that, you can't risk losing Penix. You'll be lucky if he even falls to 11. Because I look at Oakland and I look at Seattle as two teams that, look, they have a ton of assets to move up, but 7, 8, 9, moving up from, 13, 14, 15, where those teams are, very possible, very achievable. So I think if Penix is there, I have zero problem with them taking him. I think he's the best pure passer in the draft. I think he has all the intangibles. He has some things to work on in terms of like throwing short accurately. That kind of stuff I feel like can be coached and taught. You can't coach and teach the kind of arm talent this guy has and the kind of leadership he has and the intangibles he has. So walk away with a bag full of draft assets and you get Penix at 11. I feel like that's a great place to be.
Yeah. And in my draft, I have the Chargers here, right? And, we both had the Vikings moving up. So I had them moving up the Chargers. I got the Chargers here. I got the Chargers going with Rome Odunze, getting him a little bit getting Herbert a little bit of help. I mean, Odunze used to play in the West Coast, right? Spent his time in Washington, not going too far down to Los Angeles. And, like we said, this is a team that, they have some building blocks. I mean, a lot of people still really like Justin Herbert, but let's face it, like that wide receiving core has been decimated, and we both said that Quentin Johnson may not be the guy. So I think you got to get him some help one way or another. So I had them trading down and taking Rome Odunze here.
Absolutely. That would be a great matchup. Rome Odunze with Justin Herbert. That would certainly be an interesting pairing. Okay, Justin. And then any other thoughts? We're not going to make any more picks, but a couple more takes I'm just going to fire through here before we wrap it up, which is one, watch out for Oakland to trade up for Penix. Don't assume he's going to be there at 11 because I think they love him and I think they want a quarterback. Bonix, I think will go in the first round to Denver. I think Denver is the 12th pick. That would be the next pick if we were to keep going. I see them trading down and maybe picking up some assets. They got a lot of holes. They're in salary cap jail because of the Russell Wilson trade.
Yeah.
And I think they move down and ultimately take Bonix and pick up some assets. I expect the Chiefs to draft another wide receiver because I think that's their bread and butter, and they haven't really filled that replacement hole for Mahomes. And as for the Patriots, future draft picks after that first pick, they're going to maybe have other picks, maybe in trade, they'll have assets. I think wide receiver is their bigger need over offensive line the more I think about it. And I hope they draft someone like the guy from Georgia, Ladd McConkey, I love, or the guy from Florida, those undersized slot guys, playmakers. You see it across the league. Deebo Samuel, some of these other guys. These guys are more valuable than they've ever been before. So I hope they go in that direction.
Yeah, I think I think we're definitely poised to see a couple of big moves on draft night. I think at this point it's unavoidable. I mean, there's so many trade rumors, especially where you have this situation where there's so many. I don't know if maybe I'm just not remembering correctly to the last couple of years, but like, does it seem like this year especially there's a need for a quarterback for a lot of teams? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's always a need for a quarterback. You can never, understate that. But I feel like this year there are a lot of teams that are trying to find that next guy. And I think that's going to make things interesting.
Well, this is what I would say about that. There are always a lot of teams that need quarterbacks, right. But I think the way the league has moved, the salary cap and the emphasis on passing and scoring, that you really need a quarterback now more than ever. And like 20 or 25 years ago, you could maybe get a B-level quarterback with a great defense and win. And I really think that's harder to do now than it used to be. So I think that's really pressuring teams to sort of turn these guys into something they're not. I mean, we just mentioned Zach Wilson got traded to Denver just about an hour ago. And look at that 2021 draft class. How many of those guys really should have been drafted where they were? Probably none of them. Yep. Okay, probably none of them. But teams are just desperate. So they convince themselves to believe in these guys. And 4 franchises got burned. You got 4 of those 5 guys now that have been traded within 3 years. That's Fields, Wilson, Mac Jones, and Trey Lance, all gone from the team that drafted them within 3 seasons. So it speaks to a trend in this league right now, which is a desperate need for a franchise quarterback and teams overdrafting these guys. And that's why, do they need quarterbacks? Yes, more than ever, though, more than ever.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. So it's going to be super interesting. Really excited to see what the Patriots do. Really excited to see what some of these other teams do. I think, and also just given how high the demand is for some of these quarterbacks, I think naturally, right, that's going to push down some of the other top level talent deeper into the first round and beginning of the second round. So I actually think this is going to be a situation where there's going to be a lot of talent available in the first couple of rounds, and you're going to be able to get some guys really, deep into the draft that are going to be impact players right off the bat.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I mean, that's true every year. Like, you just never know. And there's always great players available in the later rounds, which is one of the ironies of this is that, look, at the end of the day, nobody knows anything. If the smartest, my feeling on this as a Patriots fan, and we can end on this, whatever they do on Thursday night, I'm getting behind. Because if the smartest football minds in the world can screw this up more often than not, like, who am I to be pissed if they draft Michael Penix or they draft Bo Nix or they draft J.J. McCarthy, whatever? Who am I to be pissed about that? I'm going to get behind it and I'm going to root for it. and I'm going to see what happens on the field this fall in the next 2 or 3 falls. And then we'll pass judgment on it, because nobody knows, no matter who they are, how smart they are, how accomplished they are, nobody knows what these guys will become.
Yeah, exactly. And we, like you said, we can speculate all we want. We can listen to the mock drafts all we want. We can listen to the pundits. But I mean, you know what? Every draft night, there's always things that shake up what people thought were going to happen, right? There's always teams who do stuff unexpected. There's always some sort of trade in there that kind of throws a wrench into things. And this year is going to be no different. I think we're going to see some surprises. We're going to see some reaches. We're going to see some runs that maybe, cause some teams to maybe panic or make some draft day decisions. And, I'm super excited. We've waited a long time to get some football back, and this is just another injection of life into football before the season actually starts.
Yes, agreed. And I think, things happen fast once the draft is behind us.
Right.
Mini camps will be here in a few weeks, and rookie camp next week. It's an exciting time of year. The schedule will come out in the next couple of weeks, so we're getting back into the swing of things for football wise. But it's a huge night for the future of this franchise. If they blow this pick, I guess we can end on this thought, which is what none of us want to happen. But if they blow this pick, and it's going to take 3 or 4 years for them that to manifest, I mean, you're going to draft a quarterback. You draft another Mac Jones. That's going to be almost 7 seasons since Brady left.
Yeah.
And figure, you go back to the draft again in 3 more years. It's going to take another year or 2 before best case scenario we hit. You could be looking at like a decade easily of just like bad football, a la the pre-Bledsoe Patriots. So there's a lot at stake tomorrow night, because this is an opportunity to hit the lottery. This is an opportunity to draft that player that brings you back to respectability towards being a real, legitimate NFL franchise, competitive year in, year out. You get that chance every couple of years. And if you blow it, you're the Cleveland Browns. You're the Buffalo Bills pre-Josh Allen. You're the Jets. And so they have so much at stake to nail this tomorrow night. And if they do, great. If not, it's going to be a rough couple more years. Yeah,
exactly. But and you know what? To that point, I think that's why maybe my more conservative nature kind of hopes that they trade down and get some draft capital, because again, like I said, and this feeds back into your argument. It's like, who are we to say? I obviously have no clue, but my gut tells me I don't love any of these quarterbacks. So given the implications that are on the line, if you blow this pick, I lean, hey, take the draft capital, try to take some sure things and rebuild the core of that roster. But if they do go quarterback, it's going to make it extra interesting. And like you said, there's a ton on the line for this. So hopefully they make the right decision.
And you know what, Justin? There's a part of me that also says, look, like, I'm a fan. I want entertainment and I want interesting.
Yeah.
And even if it's the right thing rationally to trade back, and it's what I think they will do, at the same time, like, if they were to draft Drake May, that would be entertaining and interesting. It would be great to have a face of the franchise to root for.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Hey, at least no matter what they do, if they bring in a quarterback, whatnot, I'm at least comfortable enough with Jacoby Brissett that we say, hey, this isn't, if they bring in a quarterback, they don't need to start on day one. And if they trade down and push off the quarterback situation, you got a guy who can hopefully behind a solid roster lead you to 8, 9, 10 wins potentially.
See, that's where we differ on that one though, because like, I like Jacoby Brissett for 6 weeks while the rookie learns the ropes. I don't want Jacoby Brissett for 2 years, 3 years. I don't want them to go into next year with the number 15 pick in the draft because they were 8 and 9 and really not be in a great position to draft a quarterback next year and have a much better team, but still no answer at the most important position in professional sports. So I definitely, that's what I'm afraid of. You trade back and you get shut out of Michael Penix, you get shut out of anyone you like. And now we're rolling with Jacoby Brissett. It's like we're a headless monster at that point. It's just like, it's tough.
For sure. And I don't disagree with that. I'm just comparing it, I guess, to the Mac Jones situation where Mac Jones pretty much had to start on day one, right? Like, I mean, Cam Newton was just a shell of himself. He had completely played himself into a bench role. I mean, you had guys like Brian Hoyer who just looked like they couldn't be any more done with their career, right? And like Mac Jones almost had to start week 1, right?
Yeah.
At least we know we have that 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it may be with the Jacoby Brissett, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, Brissett is a terrific bridge quarterback. And look, if they draft someone and then they're counting on Brissett to get them there, even if Brissett plays most of this year,
right,
I'm okay with that. But I don't want to go. I mean, it may end up being that it has to be this way. But I really would prefer not have to go into another year and not know who the franchise quarterback just is going to be. Just as a fan, I think that's a tough, shitty place to be when you don't have a quarterback. I mean, and we went through this, when I was really young in the early 90s. And then we draft Bledsoe. We went 30 years where we always had a franchise quarterback, no matter what. Say what you will about Bledsoe. He was a very good quarterback. And then we had the greatest quarterback that ever lived. It's been 3 decades that we had the man. And now it's been 4 years that we have been a rudderless ship and we haven't had the man. And this just really sucks as a fan to be in that situation. So I'll love it if they draft J.J. McCarthy. I'll love it if they draft Drake May. Do I love the player? I don't know. What difference does it make? Like, if he's here, we're going to root for him. We're going to root for the best. And we're going to hope they nailed the pick. At the end of the day, you may hate J.J. McCarthy if you're a fan and you say, why did they take him? Stranger things have happened. Then J.J. McCarthy, could be a great quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't know what's going to happen with these guys. So we'll see. But it will be great to watch. And I'll say, above all, I'm just happy it's going to be over. I'm tired of talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. We finally get some answers one way or another. All
right, we're going to wrap it up. I want to thank everyone that listened to this edition of the Dr. Football Podcast. Have a great week. Enjoy the draft. Enjoy the Celtics and the Bruins, too. Take a break from football and enjoy these awesome playoff runs. We'll catch you guys after the draft. I'm sure we'll be recording at some point next week to kind of break down everything that happens on draft night and beyond over this weekend. And enjoy it, everyone. Have a great week.